Welcome to the Honeymoon Mindset Podcast. Even with kids, you can have a honeymoon mindset. We are your hosts,
Kimberly Mullen.
and James Deppa.
Right.
You got to find that inside and your comfortability inside you. And if you don't feel comfortable, what are you going to do about it? And making sure those choices are healthy choices.
Yes.
Because there's some choices, some of these TikTok challenges and some of these other channels that are on Facebook and stuff aren't healthy. They're actually extremely dangerous and life-threatening, some of them.
I'm sure. I don't prescribe to TikTok myself or allow my kids on those kind of things, but I've heard that there's challenges going around the schools.
Yeah.
And, I've seen parents post on Facebook, I just got a notice from the school to beware of this TikTok challenge or that one. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
These are horrible, and I'm so glad I don't allow my kids on these things.
Mm-hmm. But
you do have to be very aware of what they're watching and what their friends are letting them watch.
Oh yeah, and I like the idea of you showing that before and after of those actors and models and stuff, because then it's like, okay, what you're looking at isn't. And even some of these food ads and product ads that you see, how they, like from cereal commercials, it's not really milk, it's actually glue.
Right.
And they put it in there. And just seem like with the hair and stuff, a lot of times that's a wig that's so matted down with like actual spray glue, not hairspray, not the product, to make it look. And they put it on the model or whoever it is. That way these kids can see, have a more realization when they're looking at this stuff. It's not real. There's something behind there potentially. Because as a photographer, I see all these ads and all the photography groups. It's like, oh, use this type of product to make the droplets or to make this and that. So that's where it's like combining what you're saying of those before and after and looking at those photos to have a conversation. And nowadays, I'd say you have to have it almost a couple times a year to make sure your kids are in check.
Absolutely, especially as they start spending more time alone with friends when you're not supervising.
Oh.
Because you don't know what those friends are allowed. My kids may not have phones, but some of their friends do. And what are they showing my kids while I'm not around?
Or even, as you said, your daughter is hitting puberty. They develop faster, slower, differently.
Exactly.
That becomes a huge issue for body image and self-conscious.
Absolutely. I remember that when I was her age, and I remember thinking, oh, I don't have to wear a bra yet, but a lot of my friends do, and now I feel really awkward. I don't want to, we didn't really change in the gym like I know a lot of people do, but you hear those stories of like, well, I didn't want to undress in the gym in front of my friends because I'm embarrassed,
Yeah.
I do remember that. And I also, you brought up the food thing, and I do think it's good to talk to them about, like, it's not just with bodies, it's with everything that they do this with photography. And But I remember in high school, they showed us a whole series of how they do that with the food, and I remember being shocked, being like, really? That's not really a Big Mac I'm looking at? That's not, that's not real cereal and milk. It's crazy what they'll do.
Oh, yeah. I've seen all this stuff, and it's like, oh, yeah, they put toothpicks in there to make sure everything stands just right and sits.
Because I know when I open my container, I'm like, that doesn't look the same.
Yeah.
It's falling everywhere.
Yeah, most definitely. Just even when I go to a restaurant and look at it, I'm like, Beth will be like, what are you ordering? Well, this looks really good. And you get it, and it's like, okay, that looks nothing like the picture that's in the menu.
That's so funny. I think another really important thing to do is from birth is when you talk about body parts, use the correct terms.
Yeah.
And I think so many kids grew up being ashamed of their bodies parts because they're taboo and they're private and you can't even say their names, like, ooh, my hoo-ha,
Yep.
And little weenie or whatever. Like, God forbid you said vagina or penis. Probably would have got smacked when I was growing up.
Oh, I know I would have because I grew up in a Christian home, a
Mm,
religious home, and I think that's where a lot of that came from. Is
yeah.
as you've mentioned many times, and I've mentioned too, is it comes
Mm-hmm.
from our past, our history, and it doesn't mean
Absolutely.
that history was wrong. It may just been the way that culture, society was, and it's something that just carried on.
Yeah,
And
and it just
as
doesn't work today.
Yep, as we look at the past, let's learn from it and let's learn what it has. Notice what it did then, and like, okay, how do we change that now? How do we change that so it's more of a positive effect on body image versus a
Right.
negative one?
Yeah, and it surprises me that even today sometimes, because I've always done this with my children, they've always said the correct parts for their bodies, and they've never been, so far, thank God,
Mm-hmm.
never been ashamed of talking about them or, I make they're very healthy parts. They are private. They are, you know,
Mm-hmm.
to be covered, and I explain why, you know, and but a lot of times my kids were very little. Sawyer has no problem being like, "Hey, you have a vagina or I have a penis," and most people think it's great, but there are still people who are like, "Oh,
Yeah,
did he
yeah,
just say that?" I'm like, "Yes, he did because he's accurate. He's making an observation. He knows you're a girl,
yep.
and there's nothing wrong with that."
No, there's not.
They giggle uncomfortably, like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this kid just said vagina."
Yep, yeah.
But I think it's extremely important because I know I grew up being very ashamed of my body parts,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
feeling like I shouldn't even ever look at them or touch them or because they're bad and they're wrong.
Yep. I remember that
And
too in the locker room for gym or playing football, going
mm-hmm,
in there change. It's like, okay, how can I do this so nobody sees, do as quickly as possible and or as
exactly.
little as possible? I remember that too, and I
Mm-hmm.
always hated for a while there in gym. Yeah, they were forced to take a shower after gym class because you didn't want to, which I
Mm-hmm.
understand. You don't want to go hot, sweaty, stinky, especially a boy going through
Right.
puberty and changes and learning. It's like, no, I hated that. I dreaded that. So you always did as little as possible so you didn't have to take a shower after gym.
Yeah. Or they should have definitely found a way to make it way more private.
Yeah, yeah, versus those big old group showers with 30 showers.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we grew up at a time like we were just talking about where we were told those parts were shameful,
Mm-hmm.
but yet here now you have to undress in front of everybody and show them those shameful parts.
Yep. And it's also different, and you're comparing, you're comparing, and your friends are comparing, and it's like, okay, am I normal? Am I so?
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, I say, like we've said before, is you gotta talk to your kids often.
Absolutely.
Ask them what's normal for them, not for you. And as we have said so many times on this show, Kimberly, you got to listen with your heart because it is
Absolutely.
such a sensitive topic. You're not
It
going to,
is very sensitive.
yeah, we're not going to always say the right words or the right
No.
way, but that's going to be okay. And that's where you listening with your heart comes into play and making it an open dialogue so that they can learn that, okay, if this isn't normal for you, you're not comparing it to this or that.
Right.
What is normal for you? And let's work together and come up with a plan together.
I'm glad you just used that word compare because that's a huge part of it too.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, do not compare yourself to others.
And
That
that's
will never make you happy. And
and
I try to instill that in my children as well. You are your individual person,
yeah, and
and you are
as you were
perfect
saying that,
as you.
yeah, and as you were saying that too, Kimberly, it came up to where parents they want their kids to look at them, and let's say they're a little heftier than a parent, how strict parents can be, or vice versa.
Hmm.
Yeah, we
I
can't
do.
compare
Sorry.
ourselves to the kids to us either because, like you said, they're individuals and they're a little different.
Absolutely. And I do. I unfortunately have heard some of my children's friends. I've heard some of their parents say stuff to them like, "Don't you think you've eaten enough of those?" Or you're getting a little thick in the waist. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about as young as 2 and up.
Oh, wow.
And it just takes everything I have to bite my tongue because I do my best to very casually, without making the parent feel guilty, find a way to talk about, exactly what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe later on slip in like, oh yeah, I never want to compare my child because I want my child to know they're an individual, or I never want to instill negative body images in my child, or I find a way to casually bring it up and hope I plant a seed without
Mm-hmm.
flat out being like, wow, that was really fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't believe you just said that to your kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know that your parent did that to you and made you feel horrible, and now you're turning around and doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard. It's really hard to find that balance of, okay, I want to say something, but I don't want to offend.
Yeah. That's where us as parents, we need to go back. And I've heard a lot. Oh, do you remember when you were that age, what it was like? Yeah, a lot of
Hmm.
parents probably don't. Some parents thought it was good. I would say a lot of parents nowadays don't wish to be in society today trying to grow up as their kids are
Right.
with everything. So if you say that, then what are you doing to help make it easier, make it better? And that's where you, like you said, we as parents, we need to watch what we're saying and how we're saying it
Hmm.
to our
Absolutely.
kids.
And how we talk about ourselves in front of them.
Oh, yes.
Are we standing in front of the mirror, grabbing our stomach, going, oh, I need to lose 5 pounds?
Mm-hmm.
Are we saying, oh, I can't have that cake, it will sit in my hips?
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
hair looks horrible today. What are we saying in front of them? Or are we saying, wow, I love this outfit I have on today. I like the way it makes me look.
Mm-hmm. But then even
You
when we're
know,
looking negative, are we explaining it or just saying it and going off and eating another bowl of ice cream or another piece of cake? Or are we
exactly.
talking about it like, what do you think I can do? How can we turn it to get the kids involved so it becomes a learning experience versus,
Right.
okay, that's what my mom and dad see in themselves, and that's supposed to be normal
Hmm. Yeah, I
behavior.
mean, it happens in my own household too. Matt was out of work for a while there
Mm-hmm.
and not exercising as much as he used to when he was physically working, and his stomach grew.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to remind him sometimes to be careful what he said about his stomach in front of the kids. And sometimes to be like, okay, well, if you are going to talk about that you want to lose weight, explain to them why, because you're healthier when you lose weight. Daddy's doing this diet, I'm not a big fan of diets per se, but,
Right.
daddy's doing a cleanse, or because he wants to clean out the toxins and be healthy.
Right.
Not, oh, well, daddy's got a big tummy and he wants to, you know, he doesn't feel good about that. He thinks he looks ugly, so he's gonna, you know, go on this special diet or whatever. You know what I'm saying.
Right.
It's not
Yep.
coming out right, but you know what I mean.
I understand. That's where Beth and I, we've sort of, she'd wants to do some of these diets and Nutrisystem stuff. It's like, that's all great. They give you the food, but they don't teach you what to do afterwards. Or they don't
That's the
teach you to,
hugest part.
yeah. And they want you to look like this or do this and you'll get these results. It's like, but that's
Right.
not everybody. She finally found somebody called Corinne Crabtree, and she does
Hmm.
no BS weight loss. and
Okay.
and it actually looks at not so much, she doesn't believe in diets, she doesn't count calories, she doesn't believe in any of that, and
Mm-hmm.
she sort of says don't do it. She says you need to start in one place, either making yourself more active or watch
Mm-hmm.
what you're putting in your mouth.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. And when you're putting stuff in your mouth, why are you putting it in your mouth? She does a lot of working on the mindset of why you're eating
Yes.
and what you're eating versus, oh, you can't eat this, you can't eat that, you can't eat this. And she's
Mm-hmm.
actually um, against some of these fad diets like keto,
Oh,
Atkins,
yeah.
South Beach, because she's like, you got to follow all this in order to do it. And then she's like, that becomes too complicated for people, or they're doing it and they still don't feel happy or they're not losing the weight. It's like because of
Right.
what you're putting in your mouth. You never dealt with the issues behind it and why. And
Right.
she's a lady that was, I think she said she stopped weighing herself at 2 something or 3 something, but she's lost over
Right.
150 pounds and she's been doing this for 9, 10 years now, and she does programs all around the country.
Yeah. I am definitely not a diet fan. I don't believe in doing all those different, like you were talking about, keto and all that. And that's no judgment on anybody who does do that.
Right,
I
right.
100% believe in mindset and lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to do even a cleanse, like I am a big fan of cleanses, but what's the point of doing one if you're going to go right back to eating the cake as soon
Right,
as you're done with your 10 days or 30 days or whatever you do a cleanse for?
right,
If
right.
you're not going to change your lifestyle and your mindset after that, there's no point.
And that all
And I
come,
talk to my kids about that as well. When, Matt
yeah,
was struggling a little bit there and he would do a cleanse, I'd be like, all right, well, this is only, I would talk to them about how the purpose of the cleanse is to clean out the body so that you can start putting healthy stuff into it
mm-hmm,
and change the way you're doing things. But you have to change the root cause of why you eat that way first.
yeah. And I would say also the other thing with body image, as we're talking about what you want, is what do your kids want to be when they grow up? What do they want to
Mm.
look like when they grow up?
Mm-hmm.
And the decisions that they make now affects how they're gonna look and feel later in life.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
Energy.
yeah. So even helping your kids visualize where they want to be in the future and who they want to be. Well, what decisions do we need to make now? If we keep living this way, being this way, are we going to be able to do that? Are we going to be able
Right.
to? Because that all plays in body image too. Because there's some kids like your daughters, and I don't know if Sammy does or not, gymnastics and stuff. Well, if we're doing
Mm-hmm.
all this, how are you going to be able to do that later? And do you want to do
Right.
this? Do you want to go on become a Olympian or collegiate or professionally? I don't even know if there's
Mm-hmm.
professionally after Olympics for gymnastics.
um, well, and I think when you sit down with them to do that, I think that's a wonderful idea and be very clear that it's about what they want to be and do and how they want their body to be able to perform. Because I know if I just said, what do you want to look like when you're older? Well, I want to be 5'9". Well, I can't control that.
Mm-hmm.
But I can control if you're going to, help you, not control, but I can help you live a lifestyle where you're not going to be 200 pounds, you know,
Right.
where you're going to be able to do flips when you're still 25.
Yeah. And that's where you said 200 pounds. That I don't know why this is weird, but also when they come across people that are really skinny or on the bigger side, okay,
Mm-hmm.
now you see that it's like you may not be comfortable, but why? Or versus them, but you do realize that they may be happy, they may be content with the way they look and how they feel,
Mm-hmm.
or they may not be. They may be hiding some pain that we cannot see, some hidden pain,
Mm-hmm.
mental issue. I don't want to say mental issue, so, a mental conflict in
Mm-hmm.
themselves that they don't know how to resolve. And so they resort to eating or over exercising or lack of eating to look the way
Mm-hmm.
they do because they have that internal struggle in themselves. Maybe that's a better word, terminology. Internal
Yes,
struggle
that's a great way to
that we
phrase it.
don't know. So we shouldn't judge somebody or make fun of somebody because of their body image because we don't know
Right.
what's going on mentally. And I know
Most
one
definitely don't.
one of my friends just posted on Facebook about mental health issue and how big that is. And I know it's huge because it's in our
Mm-hmm.
family and I know it's in your family as well.
Mm-hmm.
That we just need to be there to support people for who they are and just where they are.
Where they are in their journey,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And if there's something we can do to help, then we need to lend a hand as much as we are capable of.
I
So,
agree.
and that how goes with body image. When they look at other people and accept, okay, do people know what's going on inside of you? How do you know what's going on in them? So when we look at body image positively, we won't judge others just on their or assume on their body image. We start listening with our hearts and caring and using our brains to help solve what we can solve and not assume and jump to conclusions.
Mm-hmm. Very well said.
Well, thank you. I'm trying. So to recap, for me,
Mm-hmm.
we need to start talking to kids at a young age. What's normal, what's not. Not according to standards or to society standards.
Right.
We want to use the FDA, the pediatrician, pediatric as a standard, as a guideline, not as a rule of thumb, because
A very flexible guideline.
yeah, because each family is different, each
Mm-hmm.
child is different, and life is different for everybody.
Absolutely.
And we need to sit down and talk to them a couple times a year, especially when they get into school and in high school when they start going through puberty and junior high.
Mm-hmm.
Then we
And it
need to
starts
do
early nowadays,
yeah.
middle school.
Then we need to do it even more, talking to our kids and making conversation.
Absolutely.
And as you, Kimberly, said, we need to watch what we say
Mm-hmm.
about ourselves and find a way to turn it into a conversation so it's a learning experience for everybody.
Yes, absolutely. Watch what you say about yourself and watch how you talk to your child about their own body as well.
Mm-hmm. And then also, let's use their future not as a fear, but as a standard of what we want to do now to reach that goal later on in life. So we're not disappointed, not struggling later in life. And also using
And
those struggles that we have inside to not compare somebody else who looks different than us, but yet be
right,
there to help them where they are at.
absolutely. I love that you said when you talked about the future, not as a fear.
Yeah.
Do it as a goal, not well, you know, everything is so how you word things. Like be like, okay, well, so this is what you want to be doing when you're this age. Great. How can we get you there? Let me support you.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than you think you're going to eat that and be able to do a flip at 25? It's so important how you word things to your children.
Oh, yeah. 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 Anything you want to, or how would you want to wrap up today?
I'd say just like you said, start real early with talking about these things. Make sure you're showing your child when things are unrealistic. When if they're like, "Oh, look how pretty she is." Well, that's great. She's beautiful. Here, let me show you a before picture. Which one do you find more attractive? Let's talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that. And really important, just from the very beginning, to never shame them about their body.
Mm-hmm.
Be real careful in the words you use. Never shame yourself in front of them. The
And
best thing you can do is learn how to love yourself so you can show them how to love themselves as they are.
the correct
Model
terminology.
healthy behavior, and the correct terminology is so important. So they never feel they have to be ashamed of their body parts or anything about themselves.
Okay.
That's,
Wow.
that's my feelings on it.
Mm-hmm. I really do hope, folks, that parents that I know when I was a kid and I see the kids, like I said, I'm a school bus driver. I see these kids in elementary, middle school, high school, and I can see some struggling with their body images, the way they carry themselves and their clothing, that it's not easy. And it's a very touchy situation or topic to talk to your kids. That's where
Mm-hmm.
Kimberly and I are here. Reach out to Kimberly through her organization, or you can talk to Passionate Life Mentors, which is my organization.
Mm-hmm.
And we will set up a free, or at least I know, and I'm pretty sure you do too, consultation where we can talk and
Yes.
help and get the ball rolling. We aren't here to shame. We're here to help you move your life forward. Move your kids' lives forward.
Absolutely.
And I know there's a lot of parents out there that stress and sweep it underneath the rug, hoping it'll go away on its own.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't do that as parents. And I know it can cause a lot of turmoil and struggles in couples and in relationships. But when you both do it and you both get on the same page and talk about it, you can have a honeymoon mindset with kids. And your kids can have a honeymoon mindset. It just isn't for relationships either.
Definitely.
So, and as we always say on this show, you also got to listen with your heart. Reach out to us. I always want to say sunshine, and it's sunrise mindsets, right?
Yes.
Sunrise mindsets. She's on Facebook. She's on Instagram. Reach out, send her a direct message, a DM. And Kimberly would love to talk to you about it. And so would I.
Definitely.
Passion
It
Life
is my passion.
Yes. It's both our passions. Passion Life Mentors on Facebook and Instagram as well. And we'll have stuff on the websites or the podcast as well. So thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you next time with Honeymoon Mindset with Kids.